Okay, so as promised, here is your video on parameter rules. So you may be asking yourself the question, well, what are parameters? Parameters are these variables a, b, h, and k that affect the function, whatever function it is. This is in function notation. So these parameters have the same influence on all the functions: quadratic, absolute value, linear, exponential, etc. So what do these parameters do? So the number in the front that you're multiplying the function by, if the absolute value of that number is greater than 1, then we have a vertical stretch. If the absolute value of that number is between 0 and 1, we have a vertical compression. And if a is negative, we have a reflection over the x-axis. Now let's take a look at the number, the parameter at the other side. Notice that these two parameters, one begins it, one ends it, and they're outside of the grouping symbol. Okay? And these outside parameters are going to have a vertical effect on our graph. In other words, it's going to affect the y-coordinate of the parent function. So the k value, as you've probably already learned, if k is positive, it translates k units up. If k is negative, then it translates k units down. And remember, we always start with the parent. Always start with the parent. Unless, of course, it's explicitly said that we're starting with a different function. You always assume it's starting with the parent. Okay. Remember, you can pause the video at any time to get this written down. Okay, the b value, that's going to be inside here. And if there is a b value, and if there is a horizontal translation, you need to factor that b value out in order to see the horizontal translation. So, so the b value, if it's the absolute value of b is greater than 1, then it's a horizontal compression. Notice how that is the opposite of the rule for a. If the absolute value of b is between 0 and 1, it's going to be a horizontal stretch. Notice that's the opposite of the y, or the a, when a is between 0 and 1. Now if b is negative, it's going to be reflected over the y-axis. And again, these are horizontal effects because they're affecting x, the x-coordinate, and they will have an opposite effect than the vertical effects. Some people like to think of it as, when dealing with x, your x lies. So it's the opposite of what you think. Okay, so the h value. So when you have this expression here, we have a translation h units right. And when you have this expression here, it's translated h units left. So you can pause the video, get this all written down. These are your rules for parameters. And these parameters cause transformations in your graph.